What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are basically going to continue our coverage over the prelude to Secret Invasion. Now, the reason why I say the prelude is because basically when it came to Marvel, they kind of took their time building up this huge crossover event that they wanted to do. And that was Secret Invasion. Now, of course, they made sure to use a lot of different books, but each book was used in a different way to kind of build up this entire event. And of course, we're covering the miniseries that came out back in 2008, known as the Captain Marvel miniseries. Now, the reason why we're covering this miniseries because, well, for two reasons. One, it's all about the original Captain Marvel, the guy known as Marvel. Remember, Marvel was a Kree soldier who was basically sent here to blow the earth up. But of course, he changed his mind when he realized that there was potential in humans. And so he became a good guy and called himself Captain Marvel. Now, he died back in, I want to say 1979 from cancer, basically. Now, with that being said, he has been dead ever since then. And of course, out of nowhere in this miniseries, he's alive again. Now, there is a good reason why he's alive again, but of course, it does bring up a lot of different questions. Now, if you have seen my Thunderbolts Secret Invasion tie-in video, because we were covering Norman Osborn's Thunderbolts, that video right there basically kind of gives you a lot of answers in what's happening in this video right here. So I'll make sure to place this video before that one right there in the Secret Invasion playlist. But either way though, this is huge because now you're saying that right now Captain Marvel is alive again. But the question is though, is it really Captain Marvel? And this is Iron Man already knowing that the Skrulls are possibly trying to invade the Earth. And so right now the big question is it really him? Or is it a Skrull? And that is the big question. Now, of course, there was also a prelude to this miniseries known as The Return. And of course, it took place right in the middle of Civil War. And basically, the way the story opens up is that right now, we pick up on Fantasy Island. Now, Fantasy Island was basically a prison in the negative zone, a way to kind of keep prisoners in a safe place. Because remember, when it came to Civil War, it was basically all about the idea that the American government wanted to make sure that heroes worked for the American government to kind of keep them in a check and balance system. Now, of course, you had some heroes who did not want to be part of this new law. And so, of course, you have the heroes fight against the other heroes who actually agreed with the law. Now, with all that being said, though, Fantasy Island was a prison to kind of hold the heroes who were breaking that law. And of course, they had a warden for that prison. And that warden was Captain Marvel. But again, though, this right here doesn't tell us how in the world he is alive again because he died from cancer all the way back in 1979. Now, of course, this is the moment where we kind of get the idea of how in the world would Captain Marvel come back to life? Like, how did he come back to life? And how in the world is he a warden for a prison that was basically made to hold other superheroes? Well, we do jump back in time. Now, we're not told how far back in time we go, but all we do know is that we jump back in time to the point where, of course, we pick up with Marvel right now trapped in the negative zone. Now, he tells us right off the bat, he has no idea about a lot of different things. Like right now, when it comes to his memories, there's a lot of holes in different time points that he should remember. But either way, he does say he remembered that being in the negative zone, but then out of nowhere, he was teleported into the present day. And so this is a Captain Marvel from the past that was somehow teleported into the present day, which of course brings a lot more questions all like, how in the world did that happen? How in the world was he teleported into the present day? Like, what in the world happened? Now, of course, that is the moment where we actually do pick up with Captain Marvel being confronted by the Sentry, because with him being teleported into the present day, of course, the Sentry is around by this point in Marvel Comics. And so you have the Sentry like, hold up, wait a second. How in the world are you here right now? You know what? Stay right here. Let me go get Iron Man and Mr. Fantastic. Because remember, those two characters, they were the ones who kind of agree with the American government that basically heroes needed to be in a check and balance system. Now, with that being said, though, of course, they were the ones who made this prison. And so, of course, in their prison, it's kind of crazy to say that basically Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, is back. And so, of course, they begin to say, we have one important question for you. Do you want to run this prison? Now, that right there is kind of weird. And I feel like if I was brought into the future and I see my friends in the future and they ask me to run this prison, the question is, though, why? And of course, for Marvel, it's a good question to ask, because he's like, why in the world would you ask me, the past version of me, to basically watch this prison? Where is the present day me to basically watch this prison? Now, that is the moment where basically you have Marvel get a info dump. And what I mean is that you have Reed Richards and Tony Stark basically tell him that, hey, listen. So basically the reason why we cannot ask the present day you is because you died. You died in the past. And with you dying in the past, of course, in the present day, you are not around. And of course, where you come from, you were still alive, of course, meaning that you could be close to your death or not, who knows. But of course, he does find out that he died from cancer. Now, right after that, he also learned about the idea of the Civil War. And of course, the Civil War was a big thing. And he can't believe that heroes are fighting against other heroes. But then he remembers about the woman he loves. And he wonders, did she move on? Did she find someone else to basically marry her and care for her? And right now is him realizing that he's in a different, complete time. Now, this is the end of the Return book. So meaning that we can go ahead and jump into the mini series, because when it came to the Return book, there were two stories, one for Marvel and one for the Sentry. And of course, we are not going to cover the Sentry book and go ahead and dive into the Captain Marvel mini series. So here we go. Now, getting into the miniseries, we actually do pick up in the middle of Civil War. Now, this is actually very important because remember, in the Return book, basically, Iron Man and Reed Richards tried to keep Captain Marvel's return a secret. He did not want the world to find out that basically this man was alive again. And the reason why that is so important is because basically right now you have the Civil War happening at this moment. And of course you have the two sides of heroes fighting against one another. But while the heroes are fighting against one another, you have Spider-Man see Captain Marvel. And for Spider-Man, he's kind of like, no way. Captain Marvel is back? No, this is a trick. Now, you also have to remember something. When it came to Civil War, Reed Richards and Tony Stark made a clone of Thor to kind of help them win the war against the heroes who disagree with the law. And so for Spider-Man, he's wondering, did Tony Stark also made a clone of Captain Marvel? But here's the thing though, as soon as Spider-Man tries to get close to Captain Marvel, he leaves. And so for Spider-Man, his questions do not get answered at all. Now, after that fight, you basically have Captain Marvel talk to us, the readers, where he is basically trying to tell us, look, right now, I'm in a time where I should not be in. I had died in the past. I died from cancer, or what my people call it, of course, the black end. But either way, I had died, and now I'm back. And that right there should not be possible, but of course it is, and I'm here now. Now, of course, he does tell us one thing. When it comes to humans, and this right here he really admires, but when it comes to humans, humans have the ability to see things that most other races cannot see. And so with that being said, is him saying, look, the humans were able to see different things that other races can't see. Like, for example, this painting that he is looking at the moment, because right now he's in France looking at a painting. Now, this painting is going to be very, very important for this entire book, because basically you have Captain Marvel telling us that something about this painting is calling his name. He has no idea what, but it's calling his name. It's bringing him closer and closer and trying to figure out what is the hidden message in this painting. Now, unfortunately for Captain Marvel, while he's kind of studying this picture, this painting, well, that is the moment he's basically under attack by a character known as Cyclone. Now, Cyclone has been around for a good period of time in Marvel Comics, but here's the thing though. When it comes to Cyclone, Cyclone tells Captain Marvel that he's here for Captain Marvel. But the problem is though, Captain Marvel has no idea who Cyclone is. And so now you have a character named Cyclone who's attacking the museum and trying to go after Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel has no idea who Cyclone is. And so while you have the two characters kind of go back and forth with their words, this battle gets wrapped up just like that. But now for Captain Marvel, he's wondering, why in the world is this villain coming after me? I have no idea who he is, and for some reason, he wants to kill me and kill other people around me, and I have no idea why. Now, that is the moment where we basically pick up with a character known as Heather Sentez, and I really hope I pronounce her last name correctly, but basically Heather Sentez is a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Now remember, by this point in Marvel Comics, S.H.I.E.L.D. is being run by Tony Stark, no one else, Tony Stark. But basically right now we have these two characters having a psychic meeting, thanks to a psychic who's able to connect their minds to have this meeting. Now basically it's Tony Stark telling her that her new mission is to find Captain Marvel, because Tony Stark is worried about the idea that Captain Marvel now has the knowledge about the idea that he dies in his future, but of course Tony Stark's in the rest of the hero's past. On top of that though, is Tony Stark telling Heather that he's very afraid what could possibly happen if Captain Marvel dies in the present day and not in the past. And so of course she has been assigned to go out there and find him and bring him back to Tony Stark. Now, this is the moment where we basically learn that with the return of Captain Marvel, we basically got the birth of a new religion. Yes, you heard that right, a new religion, where basically you have a bunch of people right now kind of looking at Captain Marvel's return, kind of like how Jesus came back to life. They're comparing this man to Jesus and saying, look, he came back to life, and he actually talked to Mother Star, of course, the lady who's in charge of this new religion. And so because this man came back to life, you have a lot of people looking at that like he is some kind of God. And of course, by this point in Marvel Comics, you did have some characters come back to life here and there, but not that many yet. And so of course, when this dude comes back to life, everyone in the public is looking at him like, oh my God, he's alive? He's a god. Now, of course, you do have some people out there who want to learn more about this religion, this church. And of course, our character who's going to kind of do the detective work for this church is a character known as Nathan Jefferson. And we're going to see Nathan Jefferson a lot in this video. Now, with that being said, though, right now, he does try to go to the church to get in, and they tell him no. And of course, he does hand the member his card saying that he wants to talk to Mother Star. And of course, you do have that church member kind of take that card right over to Mother Star. Now, of course, when he does do that, Mother Star tells this member of the church to go ahead and take that card and throw it with the rest of the cards that Nathan has left at this church, because Nathan knows that something is up with this church. Nathan knows that something is up with Mother Star as well. Now, we do pick back up with Captain Marvel once again, and right now you have Captain Marvel right back at that museum, and he is studying that photo once again because he keeps reminding himself what about humans are like to him, that humans have the ability to see things that most other races are unable to see. And so right now is him basically studying this photo and trying to learn more about this photo. But while studying this photo, of course, he's confronted by Agent Heather. And of course, you have Heather tell him, hey, listen, man, Tony Stark had basically assigned me to come find you and tell you to go back home. And so now I'm going to call him up and tell him that basically I found you, you're in France, and from there, my job is done. Like literally, homegirl does not care much. She's kind of like, hey, I did my job. I found him. I told him to come home. That's it. I'm out. Bye. But either way, for Captain Marvel, he's kind of wondering, why did Tony Stark send her, but not the Sentry? Because Captain Marvel knows Heather can't stop him. The Sentry can stop him. Miss Marvel can stop him, but not her. And so is him wondering, how in the world did Tony Stark conclude that she would be the best option to bring me in? Now, this kind of leads into, I call, the big shocking moment for a lot of heroes, because even though the public has kind of heard about the idea that Captain Marvel is back alive once again, not a lot of people have actually seen him, and same for the heroes as well. And so now we pick up some time after Civil War, where of course right now we pick up with the Mighty Avengers, which should tell you this moment right here takes place after Civil War, but right before Secret Invasion. Now, with that being said, you do have the Mighty Avengers fighting against some robot, but while they're fighting against this robot, well, that is the moment you have the Mighty Avengers begin to struggle to actually defeat the robot. And so, of course, that's the moment where you have Captain Marvel just fly right in, and of course, he takes the robot out. But when he does that, of course, now the Mighty Avengers, they now know that Captain Marvel is alive again. But for Miss Marvel, somebody who was very close to him, now she also knows that Captain Marvel is actually alive again. Now, of course, with the return of Captain Marvel being back in the main Marvel universe, you have a lot of eyes on him. And what I mean by that is basically you have the whole entire world talking about the idea that Captain Marvel is back. This was a guy who was basically declared dead, and now he's back, and the public now knows about it. The Daily Bugle is talking about it. This is huge news. Now, of course, like I said earlier, there were a few people who saw him or, ran into him and everything. But of course, now with him going around being a hero, more and more people are finding out. The public is finding out. And of course, the question everyone is having right now, how in the world is this man alive again? And of course, with that question kind of floating around in the air for the public, of course, it leads right back to Nathan. Now, remember, Nathan works for one of the many newspaper companies, and basically right now, he's trying to figure out what is the deal with Mother Star. Of course, the lady who had basically started a religion for Captain Marvel when he returned. And so right now is him saying, like, I feel like there's something going on with Mother Star. It's just that I can't figure it out. But then we jump back over to Captain Marvel. Now, of course, right now, you have him kind of remind us a power he has from the early days of Marvel Comics, which is cosmic awareness. Now, it was a cool power to have, but here's the thing though. When Captain Marvel tells us that basically he had that power in the past, cosmic awareness, of course, now when he tries to use that power, he's unable to actually use that power. And of course, when he tries to access a certain memory, he's unable to actually access that certain memory. And so right now it's him kind of freaking out because he does not understand what happened to his cosmic awareness powers. Now, of course, you do have Captain Marvel kind of continuing to look at that painting again. The same painting we saw in the last chapter. The one where he said something about this painting is calling his name. It's pulling him in, and he doesn't understand why. What is going on with this painting? He has so many questions, but again, he has no idea what to do with those questions. All he knows is that this painting is calling his name, and he wished that he was a human to actually understand what is the message in this painting, or what's really behind this painting that's calling him in. But before he's able to actually study the painting, well, that is the moment he gets a door knock. And of course, it's Carol Danvers. And this is huge because Carol Danvers and him go way back. But we have to jump back over to Iron Man. Now, this is actually very important. And honestly, I did not think about this while I was reading this book. But basically, you have Iron Man meeting up with Heather again. Of course, Heather was a SHIELD agent that found Captain Marvel in France. But either way, though, you have Iron Man remind us that when it comes to Captain Marvel, he's a Kree. He came from the Kree world, and of course he was sent by the Kree to kill off the human race. But of course he changed his mind and realized that humans are not that bad, and he wanted to basically help humans reach their full potential. Now, with that being said, when he denied the Kree request, they basically labeled him as a traitor. And so right now, it's Iron Man saying, I'm very worried about the idea when the Kree find out that he's alive again. Because when he died, the Kree was like, oh, he's dead? Okay, well, bye Earth for now, because our traitor is no longer on your planet, so who cares? But if word gets out and the Kree find out that basically Captain Marvel is alive again, they're coming to Earth to kill him and kill anybody who stands in their way. Now, getting back over to the idea of why I said when it comes to Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers Miss Marvel, because remember guys, before we had Kamala Khan, we had Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel. But either way though, you do have Carol Danvers right now coming to Marvel. And the reason why, because when it came to Captain Marvel, when he first appeared in comics, it was huge. And of course, over time, he met some ladies. And one of those ladies was Carol Danvers. And of course, kind of thanks to him, in a way, it kind of led to her getting powers. Now, I do know Marvel kind of retconned how she got her powers and everything. But originally, it was kind of like part of his fault that she got powers, and so that's why she's Miss Marvel. But either way though, right now you have these two characters who used to like each other kind of hanging out, because when he died, it was huge on her. She cared for him, she loved him, and then he died. And now he's back again. And so for her, it's a lot to process. But at the same time, she's kind of happy to see that he's alive again. Because to her, it's kind of like a second chance possibly that was given to her. Now, while you have Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel kind of hanging out, they do get attacked. And of course, they're attacked by another C-list character, honestly a D-list character, and that character is Cobalt Man. Now, I'm not going to sit down here and try to explain who in the world Cobalt is, because Cobalt Man is not that important at all. But what is important is that basically, while you have Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel fighting together to actually defeat him, you have Miss Marvel say he should be dead because he died not too long ago. And so the question is now, how is he alive again? Because now here you are, somebody else that should be dead, and now bad guys are popping up and they should be dead. Especially Cobalt Man, because he died just not too long ago. And so how's he here again? Now, of course, you do have our two heroes work together to actually defeat Cobalt Man and to move on with their day. But of course, that question is still floating in the air. How in the world is he alive again? Now we do jump over to the church that's basically about Captain Marvel, their new religion that was basically started by Mother Star. Now, of course, this is where we pick up with Nathan, because remember, Nathan is that reporter who's trying to get some more information about Mother Star, trying to learn more about her and why in the world did she start this church. Now, of course, while she's kind of in the middle of preaching, you do have Nathan kind of sneak by her to go into her office to hopefully find some kind of information that basically shows that she's doing this for some kind of evil plan. The problem is, though, he gets caught by Mother Star. And of course, she does kick him out. But before she does that, she does talk to him and try to explain to him that basically what she's doing right now is not all bad. That basically she's doing this for a good reason. Now, we have no idea what that good reason is, but of course, it's her saying, you have the wrong idea about me and my religion and my church. Now, we do get this page where basically Captain Marvel is not home right now. And the reason why, because he called a meeting with Iron Man on the helicarrier. And so while Captain Marvel is away from his apartment, you do have Heather and a couple other agents basically breaking into this man's home. Now, of course, when they get inside his home, they find out that this man is heavily studying that photo, where this man has printed many different pages where you can put those pages together like a puzzle to remake that painting. He's hoping that with him kind of printing out different parts of the painting on different pages, maybe, just maybe, he'll find a missing message, some kind of hidden message. But of course, for Heather and these other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, they're kind of like, what in the world is going on here? Now, of course, we actually do pick up with Iron Man and Captain Marvel with this meeting. Here comes the problem, though. Iron Man nor Captain Marvel called this meeting, and apparently they both believe that the other person had called this meeting. And so, of course, when you have Captain Marvel asking Iron Man, why in the world did you call this meeting? Iron Man's wondering, no, why did you call this meeting? Now, while you have the two characters arguing with one another, you have Iron Man say, listen, I know one thing, though. I know that basically you had contacted the Kree. And of course, that is a problem. Now, of course, for Captain Marvel, he's all like, what do you mean I called the Kree? Why in the world would I call the Kree? Why would I do that? Because to them, I am basically a traitor. And so Iron Man says, well, up in the sky right now, that's a Kree ship. And they're coming right here right now to meet with you, apparently. And so, of course, while Iron Man and Captain Marvel are talking to one another, well, that is the moment you have the Kree ship arrive. And of course, a couple Kree do come out of the ship. Now, of course, we do jump into the next chapter. Now, of course, I know you guys, you want to see the big fight between Captain Marvel and Iron Man against the Kree soldiers. But of course, right now, we have to jump back over to Nathan. Because right now, remember, Nathan is trying to figure out what is the whole ordeal with Mother Star. Why did she make a religion? What is her master plan? What is she doing behind the scenes? And the problem is, though, he is so upset about the idea that the public is more worried about the idea that Captain Marvel is fighting against a guy known as Cobalt Man, but not worried about the idea that basically Captain Marvel's back again, but also Captain Marvel has a new religion behind him now. Like, it's Nathan saying the public is not worried about the right thing, and that ticks him off a lot. But getting back over to Iron Man and Captain Marvel as they're fighting against the Kree soldiers, because remember, at the end of the last chapter, as soon as the Kree arrive, the big question is, why is the Kree here? Well, now we know. they came here to kill Captain Marvel. And so you have Iron Man and Captain Marvel working together to basically get rid of these Kree soldiers. Now, while they're fighting against the Kree, this should tell Iron Man that basically Captain Marvel did not call the Kree soldiers here. And so, of course, now he can believe that Captain Marvel was telling him the truth earlier. Now, this is where I say Marvel brings in Secret Invasion. This book jumps right into the prelude to Secret Invasion. And this is why. Because while you have our two heroes fighting against the Kree, well, that is the moment you have one of the Krees actually shoot Captain Marvel in the head. Now, the blast should have knocked him out, but it doesn't. Captain Marvel gets right back up. And of course, the Kree's confused, like, that gun should have knocked him out. How in the world is this man alive right now? This makes no sense at all. And so you have Iron Man and Captain Marvel continue to fight against the Kree to the point where basically you have them being able to defeat the Kree. But here comes the big problem though. When they grab one of the Kree soldiers, that Kree soldier turns into a Skrull. And now the question is, why was a Skrull pretending to be Kree to get to Captain Marvel? Now we do pick up with Agent Heather, and right now you have Heather meeting up with Tony Stark. Now, this is Tony Stark kind of giving her another assignment, but this assignment falls right in line with the whole ordeal with Captain Marvel, where basically she knows that Iron Man wants to know what's going on with Captain Marvel, but for her to actually help him, she has to know everything he knows about Captain Marvel. But the problem is though, Iron Man does not want to tell her anything that he knows about Captain Marvel, even though he does not know much. But basically, with Captain Marvel and Iron Man fighting against those Kree soldiers, which of course were not Kree, they were Skrulls, you have Iron Man say, listen, there is this new religion that popped up known as the Church of Hala. And this Church of Hala has a lot of different locations across the world. And my thought process says, it's weird how some Kree soldiers attacked us and they were Skrulls. So what if this new Church of Hala is just more Skrulls pretending to be humans? And so it's Iron Man saying, here's your goal. I want you to go to these different locations to figure out if the Church of Hala are Kree, humans, or Skrulls. Do your job and go. Bye. Now, the next section is honestly showing us what Iron Man said is true. That basically right now, with the church growing at a fast rate, the Church of Hala, they have so many different locations around the world. Now, with that being said, though, of course, we actually jump over to one of those locations. And the reason why, because we pick up with Nathan. And remember, Nathan is that reporter who is trying to gather information about the Church of Hala, but also Mother Star. Now, he does go to a location where he believes that could be far away enough from Mother Star so that he'll be able to actually gather some information about the Church of Hala, but also Mother Star. And so he's hoping to get enough information to basically figure out what is going on with the Church of Hala. Now, we actually do pick up with Agent Heather, and right now you have Agent Heather breaking into one of the locations that belongs to the Church of Hala. Now, when she breaks into this location, of course, she does hear some members of the church talking about one of their members dying and his body being in the back. Now, right there, that should be a red flag. Why do you have a dead body in the back and acting like it's no big ordeal? But of course, when Heather goes back into that room, she finds the dead body to be another Skrull, which tells her that possibly, really not possibly, honestly, that the Church of Hala is just a bunch of Skrulls, because the dead body in the back is another Skrull. Now, we do jump back over to Captain Marvel. Now, there is something you guys have to remember about Captain Marvel right now, that he does not remember anything at all. Like, homeboy does not remember a lot of different things. I mean, he remembers some stuff, But of course, there's some key things he should remember. But then out of nowhere, he gets this flashback. And this flashback is him waking up somewhere. And of course, he's confronted by a scroll. And so he's wondering, what in the world was that flashback? Because as soon as I woke up, apparently in this flashback, I was confronted by a scroll. I fought that scroll, and then that's all I can remember. What happened in that flashback moment? But of course, out of nowhere, his mind begins to think back to that painting, the painting he saw back in London. It just keeps flashing back in his mind over and over and over again, to the point where the man just crashed in the middle of the city. And when he comes back to, he just flies away. But again, the question is though, what is so big about that painting? What is so important about it? And what was that flashback of him waking up and being confronted by a scroll? Now, of course, you do have Captain Marvel go back to Carol Danvers, because this is the one person he believes that he can actually trust. In reality, that's correct, because again, she's the woman he fell in love with, and also she loves him. And so, of course, he wants to make sure, though, that she is really her. And so he said, "What I say to you after our first kiss." And once she was able to actually confirm what he said to her out of their first kiss all those years ago, he realized, okay, this is her. This is Carol Danvers. I can trust her. But then he says, I feel like something's going on. I don't feel like myself. And I also feel like other people are trying to make moves behind the scenes by using me as one of their many pieces behind the scene. And so, of course, they begin talking. Now, while they're talking to one another, he brings up Cyclone. And remember, Cyclone was a character he fought against earlier in this storyline. But here is the shocking moment, because just like Cobalt Man, Cyclone has been dead. Now, the thing is, though, Cyclone has been dead for years on years. And so it's Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, saying, wait, you fought against Cyclone? He's been dead for years. Why are random characters who had died so long ago coming back to life once again? That right there does not seem normal at all. And so, of course, their next game plan is to go to that scroll that Iron Man and Captain Marvel caught earlier, who was pretending to be a Kree, to hopefully get some information on what in the world is going on here behind the scenes. Now, you do have Captain Marvel actually go to that prison back in the negative zone. Now, the reason why he goes to that prison in the negative zone is not to actually see that scroll that was pretending to be a Kree earlier. Instead, he goes to the negative zone, to that prison, to talk to Cobalt Man, because this is Captain Marvel saying, okay, listen. If Cobalt Man is a character who had basically died years ago, then that means this guy right here is not Cobalt Man. This means that this guy right here is also a Skrull. And so you have Captain Marvel walk into that room and say, you're a Skrull. You are not Cobalt Man. You are a Skrull. So why are y'all here? Why are y'all pretending to be humans? Why are y'all pretending to be Kree? What is your master plan? And that is the moment, that is the huge moment where basically you have Cobalt Man turn into a Skrull, but then say, oh, by the way, you are not Captain Marvel. You are also a Kree. Not Kree, sorry. You are also a Skrull. Captain Marvel is a Skrull as well. And this is huge, because now the question is that true? Is Captain Marvel actually a Skrull? Because now the fake Cobalt Man say, yeah, you're a Skrull just like me, dude. Hi. Now, getting into the next chapter, we basically do pick up with some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents right now going to the moon of Saturn. Of course, that would be Titan. Now, the reason why these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are coming here is because they were basically assigned by Tony Stark to dig up the body of Captain Marvel, because when he died all those years ago, his body was buried in that area. And so, of course, it's Iron Man wanting to test the dead body, but to also test the dead body with the person who's right now alive, claiming to be Captain Marvel. Now, we do jump over to Captain Marvel. Now, right now, this is Captain Marvel kind of by himself and wondering what the scroll said earlier is true or not. Is he actually a scroll? Because when it comes to his memories, the only thing he can remember is being Captain Marvel. But on top of that, he's also forgetting a lot of different things. There are a lot of holes in his memories where he should remember. Well, of course, now we can say, yeah, there is a possibility that you are a scroll. And matter of fact, that scroll told him you are the perfect sleeper agent, that basically you are one of the first that we use to invade the earth quietly. You are the perfect weapon, the perfect sleeper agent. We're just waiting for you to basically remember everything. And matter of fact, you actually escaped, that you kind of fell out of our game plan. And so with that, we were kind of sent here to get rid of you because we had plans for you. But of course, those plans you did not follow. Now, of course, you are a sleeper agent, meaning that you would not remember those plans. But we have plans laid out for you, and now those plans are falling apart. And so we look at you as a project that had escaped. And so me and my unit, we were sent here to kill you. But of course, we cannot kill you because we had gave you so much, I mean the memories, the powers, all of that to make you a perfect fake Captain Marvel. And this is huge because we come to find out while he was talking to that scroll, Iron Man was listening in. But of course, with all of that information being told to him, he freaked out. He pushed Iron Man to the side and he left in a hurry because everything is kind of all coming at him at once. And he's wondering what is true and what is not true. Now, we do actually pick up with Nathan. Now, remember, Nathan had joined the Church of Hala as a way to kind of prove that basically something is wrong with this church, that something is wrong with Mother Star, that there are a lot of things wrong what's happening right now with this church. And so, of course, right now is him trying to prove that. But of course, while he kind of joined the church and being this undercover member, over time, he began to believe the words of the church. He's actually following in line with the church. And that right there is huge because at first he wasn't, but now he is. And with him doing that right now is him basically falling in love with the church. Now, of course, while he's been in the church, of course, word got out about him, and that word went all the way to Mother Star, the person in charge of the church. And of course, she still believes that Nathan is a guy who's trying to basically prove that she is evil. But of course, you have Nathan tell her, no, that's not true. Like, after being with this church for a few weeks, I basically realized that you're good. And matter of fact, I was able to recruit someone into the church. I want to stay here. I want to be with you. I want to work with you. And of course, it's kind of like this is a huge change for Nathan because earlier he was completely different. But then we see Mother Star just look out in the window. Something caught her eye. Now, of course, what she sees outside the window is Captain Marvel. This dude just literally appeared and all like, hey, I want to talk to Mother Star. And the reason why, because there is no connection really, but the reason why, because he heard about the Church of Hala. He heard what she has been trying to do. He realized that her Church of Hala is actually helping people because what the Church of Hala did was say, listen, if Captain Marvel came back from the dead to have a second chance in life, to continue to be a hero, then you have the chance to be a better person. And so with that, he's kind of like, you inspire so many people, but I feel like I'm lost. And I'm hoping that you could basically help me kind of regain what I lost, but to also regain the ability to remember everything about me. Now we do pick back up with Iron Man, and the reason why, because Iron Man is watching all the film from earlier when Captain Marvel found out that basically he is a Skrull. Now you do have this Skrull tell Captain Marvel, listen, if you died from cancer in the past, then why are you not sick right now? Why you're not coughing? Why you don't feel bad? Like, explain that to yourself. And of course, while Iron Man is watching all these different moments, he's kind of like, I think Captain Marvel must be a Skrull, which of course, it was kind of obvious. It was written on the wall. It was so obvious. Now we do jump back over to Captain Marvel. And of course, he's still with Julia Starr, aka Mother Starr. Now, here is a very crazy thing. So he basically joined the Church of Hala, because right now in his eyes the Church of Hala is going around just trying to make the world better. And so you had him and Mother Starr decide to go to other countries that need help to basically spread their word, to hopefully make humans better, to have humans go down the right path. And so of course, right now, they're in another country to begin their goal to change the entire world for the betterment. The problem is, though, this country has a war going on at the time. And so, of course, a few missiles, a few explosions, bad things happen, someone dies. And that person who dies is no other than Mother Starr. She dies. Just like that. She's gone. And for Captain Marvel, he's very upset because he actually believed in something with her. He believed what she was trying to preach. And he said himself, I swear to this world a long time ago, I was going to make it better. I was going to protect. And of course, right now, with her death, he feels like a failure. And it doesn't help when they had a conversation earlier and she asked him one question. When was the last time you went home? And Captain Marvel could not remember at all. And that right there gives us more proof that basically this man is a Skrull. But either way, she dies in that moment though. But then we pick up with Tony Stark. Now, this is actually very important. And the reason why, because you have Tony Stark meeting up with Carol Danvers. Because remember, Carol Danvers is the only woman that right now, only person actually, that Captain Marvel could possibly trust. But there is a second reason, and that second reason is because Tony Stark has the Negabands. Now, this is huge because basically it was a concept that was used back in the 1970s along with Captain Marvel, where basically he was trapped in the negative zone. He had no way out. Now, with that being said, though, of course, there was a second set of Negabands. Of course, Rick Jones found the second set. And so they were able to constantly switch spots with one another. So Rick Jones would go to the negative zone, where you had Captain Marvel go to Earth. Now, of course, they would constantly kind of switch spots so that each person could have time on Earth. Now, with all that being said, what Tony Stark wants to do is to see, one, if the Negabands that Captain Marvel has is real, and two, to send him away. And so Carol Danvers is going to use the second set to kind of basically send Captain Marvel back into the negative zone. And if it works, then it's kind of more proof that basically he could be Captain Marvel. But at the same time, it could lock him away if he is a Skrull. And so that is Tony Stark's master plan. And so, of course, you do have Carol Danvers go and find Captain Marvel. Now, remember, right now, she is the only person that this man actually trusts. And so, of course, he's coming to her like, hey, Carol, what's going on? I need to talk to somebody because there's a lot going on with me and possibly you as well. So let's talk. But of course, before he's able to actually talk to her, she's all like, nope, bam, Negabands, boom, and sends him right into the negative zone. breaking that trust. And of course, now he's very hurt by it. Now, of course, when Captain Marvel arrives in the negative zone, he's angry. He's ticked off because the woman he loves, the one he trusts, she basically sent him to the negative zone. And so he's all like, no, I have to get out of here. I have to break free. I have to go back to Earth to show them that they were wrong about me. The problem is, though, as he starts traveling in the negative zone, he sees some kind of light. And when he goes to that light and kind of goes to a different area, to him, he says, I know where I'm at now. I'm home. And that's how the 4th chapter ends. Like, he says he's home now. Now, getting into the final chapter, this is where we kind of learn a little bit more about Iron Man's master plan, the second phase. And what I mean by that is basically right now you have Iron Man going over to his machine he made that can basically hold Captain Marvel. Now remember, the Negabands can basically switch you spots with the other person who has the other set of the Negabands. And so right now you have Iron Man putting Carol Danvers in some kind of machine where technically she is a prisoner. But of course, when the Negabands are activated, she'll switch spots with Captain Marvel. And so it's kind of a way to lock him up to basically figure out if he is a Skrull or not. And so of course the only thing her and Iron Man have to do is to activate the Negabands. It'll switch spots with her and Captain Marvel and he'll be locked in the machine. The problem is though, the Negabands are not working. And the reason why, because Captain Marvel is no longer there. He's no longer in the negative zone. And so, of course, the question is now, where is Captain Marvel? Now, of course, yeah, he's no longer in the negative zone. And matter of fact, right now, he's in the portal that is leading him back to Earth. Now, with that being said, though, right now, you have Captain Marvel remember everything. He remembers that basically he is a Skrull. He remembers that what they use as a way to kind of trigger his memory or kind of jumpstart his memory. Of course, it was the paintings. And remember, those paintings were very important. It was a way for him to remember that he is not a Kree. He is not Captain Marvel. He is not a human. He is a Skrull. That is what they use to kind of trigger his memories. Now you have to remember, when it came to Captain Marvel, when he came back to Earth, or what he believed when he came back to Earth, because remember, in the return chapter of this video, he thought that he was a Captain Marvel from the past who was brought into the present day, and he wondered why in the world there was no Captain Marvel. And he found out that basically he died in the past. He died from cancer in the past. And so right now he remembers, oh my God, that is not true. I am not Captain Marvel at all. I am not Captain Marvel who died years ago. I am a Skrull. And so he remembers the experiment. He remembers that basically he gave up his body to be part of a science experiment for the Skrulls, to turn him into a Kree soldier, into Captain Marvel, a hero. And so no, he's not Kree. He's not a hero. He's not even a human. He is a Skrull whose body was modified and his brain was modified to make him feel and think that he was actually Captain Marvel, but he is not. And of course, it is so much for him to handle all at once. He freaks out. He's like, oh my God, I'm a Skrull. Like, this is huge. This is something he did not imagine to happen to him. And so, of course, when they finished the experiment, his mind actually believed that he was a Kree. He was Captain Marvel. And so he began to attack the facility that they were working on him at, where, of course, he did kill a lot of different Skrulls. Now, you do have Captain Marvel go right back to that facility that basically had made him. Now, this is the huge part though, because when he gets back there, he kills all the Skrulls that have basically made him. But here comes the next part though, y'all. Here comes the next part, because right after he kills him, we figure out why he thought that basically he was Captain Marvel from the past, because their facility is in the negative zone and he escaped there and just fell out into the negative zone. And so when he woke up and all his memories came together, he thought that he was from the past brought into the present day. But in reality, he just escaped some random facility and just landed in the middle of the negative zone. That is it, like literally. And so he goes back here, kills the Skrulls, but he is confronted by Heather. Agent Heather. She found the place and she says, I know you're a Skrull. I know you are a Skrull, and I'm amazed on what the Skrulls did to have us fool, because they modify your body so much to the point where your body looks and samples like it's Captain Marvel, but those samples are incorrect. You're a Skrull. They even gave you cancer. My dude, they gave you cancer to make it more believable, but you're not Captain Marvel. And so she wants to kill him, but he says, no, my body is a Skrull. My mind and my spirit though, no, I'm Captain Marvel and I want to do the right thing. I want to build on his name. I want to continue as Captain Marvel. And she's wondering, what should she do here? Should she kill him or not? Now, of course, we do jump back over to Iron Man and Carol Danvers, and they're wondering what happened to Captain Marvel because they sent him into the negative zone, but now they can't find him. And so with that, they're wondering, where'd he go? Where did he go? How in the world did he get away? And did he go back in time? Now, for Carol Danvers, she's really worried about the idea that this Captain Marvel, who she believes could be the real Captain Marvel, went back in time with the thought of her betraying him. And so now he'll hate her in the past. Now, we know it's not even Captain Marvel. It's a Skrull. But of course, she believes that it was Captain Marvel. And Iron Man, he still has doubts. But of course, they have no idea where Captain Marvel, this fake one, is at the moment. Now, we do jump back over to Nathan, and this is where the book is going to end, guys. I'm sorry, but this is where Nathan comes in, and you have Nathan, who had joined the Church of Hala, give a speech where apparently when Captain Marvel came back for 24 hours, nothing bad happened across the world, which was very huge. And then he said, Captain Marvel told us that he declared to end all war across the world. Now, of course, that ain't gonna happen. But either way, is him saying like, he did so much, and this church is going to build off of that. Now, Nathan has no idea that a lot of members in this church are Skrulls. Now, when it came to Mother Star, she was not a Skrull, which I'm left to believe could be a lie. But either way, for right now though, she was not a Skrull. Neither is Nathan, but other members are. And so while he is giving the speech, Nathan, out of nowhere, bam, bam, two of the members of the church are taken to the sky with Captain Marvel, this fake Captain Marvel, where of course those two members were Skrulls and they die in space. But this is the fake Captain Marvel, the Skrull Captain Marvel, saying, I am going to stay on Earth and I am going to be Captain Marvel, and he flies to the sky or space to say that he is not going anywhere at all. And that is the end of the book. Yeah, that's it. So guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know. Your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.